VR chat, I don't know what you did to your autofocus feature, but you need to fix it because it just doesn't work. Like the focal point is right. Oh, now it works. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that. Hello, everybody. I'm Falcon. It's been a while since I last, not a while, but it's been a good amount of time since I last created my talking head point. There's a good reason for that. Focus on the camera. So, I got a Valve Index, and I want to be talking about that today. So, I'm going to talk about that today. And yes, because there's a few things I want to get off my mind about it. First of all, it's a $1,000 headset. So, like, the purchase better be worth it. Unlike my G2 Omnicept, where it just turned into a brick because of Windows Mixed Reality. This is a bit more positive, but it still has some critical points on it. Let's get into it. The Valve Index released a long while ago. I think it was like 2018. It's a 5-year-old headset at this point. And, oh, by the way, this avatar creator, they are AtomicBeaver. Shout out to them. I finally got this avatar back. I'm going to be using this for videos. So the Valve Index is a 5-year-old headset at this point. And it's old, but it is still the most popular PC VR headset, like exclusively PC VR headset. I know the Quest 2 exists, but that's technically not PC VR. In fact, it's not even PC VR. It's just still standalone, and you link it through internet, and it's actually like terrible. But regardless, the Valve Index is still one of the most popular VR headsets for exclusive PC VR. And as to say that it's worth it for the $1,000, yesn't. There's a few issues with the Valve Index, but there's also a few really, really great things that I want to talk about. Starting with the good stuff. Let's get into the good before we get into the bad. Let's start off with something positive. So, the controllers. Oh my God. They are some of the best controllers that I have ever felt. Not just in terms of, VR controllers, right? But just like controllers in general. These have to be some of the best. I would play Wii Sports with these controllers if I could. They are that good. First of all, something that is very popular among the Index user base. Individually movable fingers. Also, the thumb has like 4 different positions that you can move it. But this alone, hello, tracking, is really awesome. It's way more immersive than you think it would be until you start using it. Because then you could actually just like flip people. Then you could actually just like flip people off in VR chat. That's great. I love it. Or pinkies up. Rock on, shit like that. Right? It's a little buggy. But then again, this being the first controller of its kind, I don't blame it. It works pretty well for what it does. There's a new controller out that does it better, but you can't buy that. Not right now, at least. There is a million different inputs. For example, on the controllers themselves, between the thumbsticks and the different buttons, the A and B buttons, there's a trackpad. And in that trackpad, not only does it track your positions, not only does it track your fingers, your thumb's position within the trackpad, it also has a force sensor on it. So it can not only act as a trackpad, but as like a fully functional, a trackpad that you'd find on a laptop, using it to right click or left click and whatnot. I find that really, really cool. Not only that, there is an extra button. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. But there's an extra button inside of the triggers that when you click it, it can do a different input, which is also, again, really fucking cool. Unless I just got a defective unit and that clicking isn't supposed to happen. But if that's the case, we're just going to pretend like that doesn't happen. The grips, using your fingers as the actual grip itself instead of a grip button or a grip trigger is wonderful. Getting used to it is a little bit weird, but when you do get used to it, I don't want to go back. Another thing that's really good about these controllers is how balanced they are. Just in every way. They have a little guard on the top of your hand above the palm, about right here, right? That evens out the weight and makes it feel like it's not just like a controller in your hand. It's got a really comfortable strap holding your palm to the controller so that it won't slip or anything. Now, of course, it does come with extra safety straps, which you should definitely put on. Doesn't tell you how to put those safety straps on, but there's like a little clip in there where it holds the strap to the controller. I just looped it in there and that seems to be okay. I don't know if that's a good way to do it, but you should still use the whatever the hell they're called, whatever I just recently called them. You should use that on top of the straps, on top of the hand straps, because those straps are not going to be a replacement. Your hand is still going to fly out of the controller and you need a source point so you don't break your TV or something. Plus, with that balance comes, well, I'll just put this in Beat Saber terms. It's accurate as shit. When you move your hand, it doesn't feel like you're swinging around a giant brick at the end of your fingers. All of the movement is happening within your palm. So all of the movement you're doing feels very free and very natural. Like I have my hands open at this point. I can do this all day and it's not going to bother me at all. If I did that with my Quest controllers, even with a Kiwi design strap that I used to have on it, it's not going to feel as good. The knuckles are just really good. Plus they have the way different design is awesome. Unfortunately, there's two downsides to the controllers. A, they cost $300. And B, they die really fast. I can only get about 4 hours of battery usage out of these things before needing to charge them, whereas with my Quest and especially my G2 Omnicept controllers, I could get about a week before needing to really change the batteries out and recharge the batteries that I have in. So these are severely limited in their battery life. I'm kind of wondering if they with the giant top guard, if they could have put batteries in there to see if that did something. I don't know. Regardless, the batteries die really quickly. They're stupid expensive. Granted, they're the best you can get for consumer controllers right now. Right now, there will be better ones come time. And that's about all for the controllers. Now, onto the audio. Do I even need to get into it? It's best in class. You'll get better audio out of other headphones, but they don't sound as natural as these simply because of the fact that these are off your ears. You don't feel them on your head, but they still push plenty of noise and plenty of quality noise at that it makes it think that it fools your brain into thinking that you're actually hearing what the headphones, you're listening to what's coming through the headphones and not the headphones themselves in really weird audiophile terminology. There's this huge difference to it. So even if you might be able to get better sounding headphones, these, you won't get more natural sounding VR headphones. You just won't. So that's the sound. The headset itself, it's laser base station tracked, which is, base station tracking is okay. With, especially the tracking on the Quest 2, there's a give and take. The Quest 2 and the tracking itself, like the Quest 2 and any based laser station tracked headset is going to have as good of tracking quality as anything else. There's going to be no different from that. Like, it's exactly the same. But what you get with base station tracking is you can turn the lights off and play in pitch black, and you'll be okay. You won't lose any tracking or whatsoever. Right. The downside to that is you need base stations. And if you get outside of the range of base stations, you won't have tracking. So it's a give and take. You know, you get camera tracking. You can play anywhere at any time because you don't need base stations and have just as good as tracking quality. But with base stations, you can have more reliable tracking when you're in the actual range that the base stations can help you track. If that makes sense. More reliable being like it won't be susceptible to light, nor will it actually be susceptible to occlusion because I can still like do this, right? So that's another plus of base station tracking. The headset itself is decently comfortable, albeit it is not the most comfortable I've ever worn. I have the Bobo VR strap for my Quest 2. I thought it's a hell of a lot more comfortable. Even my G2 Omnicept is more comfortable than this thing. This thing squeezes the fuck out of your head somehow while also being the loosest headset that I've played with. Like even, you know, the G2 Omnicept will squeeze the fuck out of your head, right? But it will do it more comfortably and you won't get as much pressure on your head. And the Bobo VR strap is just like fucking padding all around so you're not going to get uncomfortable. With the Rift S, it was uncomfortable, yeah, but you got used to it. This, I'm still feeling a little bit of like, I've been daily driving it for the past few weeks now, and I'm still feeling ache from it. It doesn't feel that great. That is, of course, here's a huge tip for any VR headset that you want to put on, right? You want a little bit of extra comfort. What I do is I put a baseball cap on and I turn it to behind me, and that makes it 1,000% more comfortable. Plus, it's not going to fuck up your FOV or anything too, because it's not taking the headset away from your face. It's just evening out some of the pressure that the headset, the straps put on your head for whatever reason, like a baseball cap or a beanie or even like your hoodie if you play in a hoodie. Do that. Trust me, the experience will be way better. The screens themselves are, I'm just going to put this bluntly, they're straight ass cheek. They are not fucking good. You can tell that this headset was made 5 years ago just by the screens alone. With I don't remember the exact resolution, but it is low. It's like 1440 by 1440, which for monitor standards, oh Jesus, is pretty high, right? But this is a VR headset. That is about the lowest on the market that you can get right now, especially for $1,000. And not only that, the color is not that great either. You know, there's not a lot of contrast. The screen isn't that bright. You can get it real close to your face. Like the FOV is pretty good on these things too. Like it has an adjustable screen, but the screens get hot as fuck. They get ridiculously hot. I will sometimes end up with sweat dripping down my nose from how hot these screens get, and I haven't experienced that with any other headset. Not my G2 Omnicept, not my Rift S, not my Quest 2. So there is a huge amount of improvement that needs to be done there. But I mean, at least the screens are passable. Like I can use these screens pretty decently with one caveat, actually. I'll say that in a second, but let me get this done first. I can use these screens pretty casually, and I got used to it eventually. But it's going to be a definite downgrade. Like even the Quest 2 has a much higher resolution than that. And the G2 Omnicept, well, those screens will slaughter legitimately every other headset on the market. There isn't even a competition for the G2 Omnicept screens. until you pay $2,000 for a Vario Arrow, which I don't have that yet. Content piece coming soon, trademark, probably early next year. But that is the biggest downside with the Quest 2, besides something else I'll talk about after I talk about these screens. It is, the screens are bad. They are not good. They're okay. They're serviceable, but they're not good. They look about like, you buy a $300 cell phone, right? And it has an okay screen on it, but you could tell it's a $300 cell phone, even if the cell phone itself looks pretty premium. The screen is just okay. Yeah, that. There's been another issue which I haven't experienced yet, but it kind of plagues the Valve Index, which is a very big no-no for what it is, a $1,000 headset, right? This thing is a chunk of change for a lot of people. But the headset isn't built that well. There is numerous reports of the cable management clip breaking on the headset. The actual controllers themselves breaking very easily by being dropped like 1 or 2 times the wrong way, right? With the Quest 2 controllers, I know I keep drawing comparisons, but realistically, the Quest 2 and the Valve Index are in ways competitors with each other because they offer similar or different things, but at a similar level. It's weird ADHD brain making sense of things, right? They directly compete with each other in a lot of ways, a lot more than you might think. With the Quest 2, you can chuck the controllers at a wall fucking hard and they will still be fine. But, you have Thrill Seeker, you have other people, just look it up. Valve Quest controllers broken, and you'll see 1,000 things of people needing to have their controllers RMA'd for very minor and very stupid things, like the controller just ceasing to work, which is very unfortunate. And it doesn't just happen with the controllers too. It happens with the headset, with the numerous amount of, glue issues. You also have the issues with the speakers on the headphones coming loose and getting scratchy sound and whatnot. The cable breaking, the actual headband adjustment breaking out of random. Mine already is starting to go out after a week of use. Like, it's ridiculous. And by that, I mean, like, it's not getting tight. But, and the base stations, there's a really odd caveat to not turn your base stations off or else they will break really fast. Like within 8 months of using it or whatever amount of time. Because there's a physical motor that spins in there. And if you constantly start and stop the motor, it'll break. A lot of things like that are potential things to look out for your Quest or your Valve Index, not the Quest, that are just stupid things to have, stupid quality control issues to have in your headset, your $1,000 headset. Granted, it's nowhere near as bad as the fucking Windows Mixed Reality piece of fucking shit software using headset back there. The headset itself is fine. But Windows Mixed Reality is dog shit terrible. At least these work. So there's that at least. Oh, I just got flashing. See what I mean? And there's another big issue with the Valve or the Quest 2. And that is one that might come as a surprise. Steam VR. A huge issue with the Valve Index is that it uses Steam VR. And I already made a video on this a little while back about good VR software doesn't exist. And yes, that includes Steam VR. One thing that I am almost guaranteed to get every time that I play, everybody who uses Steam VR, who has a mid-range system, which is most of everyone, 70-60% of the player base is still running on a Quest 2, which is a $300 headset. How many more people do you think can afford like a $2,000, $3,000? No, I have a $2,000 computer and I still have this issue. swapping into your Steam menu and then swapping out can give you a really high chance of getting the 11 FPS bug, where Steam VR dumps all of the allocated memory that it had for whatever game and just reallocates it immediately when you open up the Steam VR menu. And when it does that, and you swap back, since the Steam VR menu drops the visual fidelity of everything, and it comes back, it doesn't know how to reallocate that memory back into the game so that you can have a stable frame rate. So what you'll get is an 11 FPS bug. The game will report 11 FPS. Sometimes it'll be as low as like 4. It is obscene how low it gets, because you have virtually no system resources being put into your game. Now, sometimes, eventually, it'll correct itself and your game's frame rate will steady out. But most of the time, what happens is you need to completely restart Steam VR. Either that or drop down your pixel amount, right? What is it called? Your resolution to an absurdly low amount, just so you can get that frame rate back again, which is, for most people, very uncomfortable. But the 11 FPS Steam VR bug is something we all have to live with. And that's why I'm considering spending $1,000 paycheck after next to get a Ryzen 5 5800X 3D, 64 gigabytes of 3600 megahertz RAM, and a new motherboard, a new high-end X560, X570? Whichever the one, the last AMD, like the high end of the last AMD socket to have PGA. That's what I'm considering. Like, this 11 FPS bug is why I'm considering just dropping $1,000 to upgrade those 3 components, just so I don't have to experience the 11 FPS bug. Because 11 FPS in a video game, like on a flat panel, yeah, it sucks. It's very bad, right? It's unplayable. But on a VR headset, not only is it unplayable, it will legitimately make you nauseous, and it will make you heave your stomach up, and it could cause things like, I don't know, seizures. It's not good. It really is not good when you have that low a performance in a VR headset. That's why the standard for VR headsets is at least 90 hertz. Because if you have any lower than that, it's a terrible experience. Micro stuttering especially hits you hard. 11 FPS, low FPS especially hits you hard. Even seasoned veterans in VR will get that issue, right? And that's why you spend 4 times as much on your computer as you do your headset, so you can run the headset at the most stable frame rate possible. And that's also why I specifically consider getting the 5800X 3D, because they're stacked. This is going to be nerd shit. It's going to be turbo nerd shit. I'm going to explain, and I won't really expect you to understand, which is okay, because it's turbo nerd shit. But the 5800X 3D, the reason I'm considering that over every other CPU, even next-gen Ryzen and next-gen Intel, is because of their stacked 3D VNAND technology. 3D VNAND? What? Stacked 3D cache technology inside of the chip that allows for an obscene amount of very, very fast cache within the CPU itself, so that even if the frame rate might not be the highest, the low ends, like the micro stuttering and the smoothness of the frames, is the most consistent out of every other CPU that's on the market right now. Even possibly next gen, because benchmarks have already came out, and the 5800X 3D still has better frame rate consistency than pretty much everything else. Like, consistently has better frame rate consistency. Which is really, like, a lot of people who have a 5800X 3D and use VR will probably tell you they have, other good system components to back it up. Like, it's a wonderful CPU. Just fucking yes. Anyways, back to what I was talking about with the Valve Index. The reason I say yesn't for it being a good, like a worthwhile $1,000 headset is because, well, it's niche. It might be the most popular PC VR exclusive headset on the market right now. But, it's 5 years old. It still uses the same base station tracking as it always does. It still has shitty build quality. Not shitty build quality. Shitty longevity. It has a whole bunch of quality control issues to it. It doesn't have face tracking. It doesn't have eye tracking. It doesn't have very decent screens. Even if you can get 144 hertz out of it, can't get it very bright. You can't get it very dense pixel, right? The screen door is bad on it. But for those who are just looking for a high-end but not ludicrous VR experience, it's great. If you have $1,000 you want to spend on a VR headset, just get the Valve Index and you'll be golden. It might not have the best of everything, but what it does have is a conglomerate of everything that it does okay. And that's why it's a recommendation for the people who just want to play video games in VR and don't care about all the fancy shit. Now, as for headsets that are going to come out soon, trademark, very soon, trademark, that might be competitors to this, I don't know. But this thing has lasted so far, right? It's held up in the market, which is a test to itself. And if you have a Quest 2 and you're happy with your Quest 2, just stick with the Quest 2. I can guarantee you, with a couple of workarounds and a couple of, few extra bucks that you can spend to modify your Quest 2, you'll have an equally as good gaming experience as you would with the Valve Index. You just wouldn't have fingies, but that's okay. But, if you want the Valve, I'm not going to loop back to that. You already know my opinion on it. But anyways, this has been the most convoluted, absolutely ADHD brain moment ramble I have ever done in my life on YouTube. And I hope you enjoyed it. Because I don't know who's going to watch this. I don't know who's going to find this entertaining. I'm probably going to wake up tomorrow and see a view and a half on this YouTube video, but whatever. I don't give a shit. Right. I'm going to still talk about what I have, right? I'm still going to talk about VR, and I'm still going to talk about how VR performs and whatnot, right? So if you enjoyed it, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching through this brain-melting ramble. So I love you all. And as always, keep living it. Keep living it. You get the sign. Peace.